What's up and good afternoon, guys. Welcome back to another video. We've got something pretty cool today. At least I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully you guys will as well. It's not every day that you get two vehicles that are so similarly built yet so very, very different. And well, that is what we have today behind me. Well, in front of me, I should say. The sun's a little bright. Hopefully there's not food on my face. I was just devouring some work for it jerky, which we will be having back in stock soon. But check this out, guys. Let's just flip the camera around. But boom! Look at this. We'll get a little closer so the sun is not so bright here. We've got not only my beautiful Bronco build here, but we've got another beautiful Bronco build that I am excited to walk you guys through and show you guys the differences, the similarities. We've got two very completely different sets of parts on these things, but to the untrained eye, they look very, very similar. Now, before we dive too far in, this Bronco right here belongs to a man named Todd. Todd, unfortunately, cannot be here right now to film this video. He's gonna come pick this thing up tomorrow. We'll go over what was getting done to it here in a second. Sergio was doing some work on this, but just a quick overview. You guys can see Todd does not mess around when it comes to getting modifications done. And Todd, he watches the channel. He's been in contact with me on Instagram. And for those of you that may be new to the channel, you will see that I make recommendations from time to time, whether it be products and manufacturers or whether it be installers, body shops, whatever it may be. And I take those recommendations very seriously. I don't just throw them out there because somebody's giving me money to give them a shout out or to do some type of advertising or anything like that. And the reason I don't do that and I don't take that kind of money to promote shops that I have never worked with is because of situations like this. Todd had a lot of stuff done at shops that I have recommended, and I don't want somebody taking one of my recommendations and getting screwed over, or they got really bad quality work. I want you guys to get treated right, and I want the work done on your vehicles to be done properly. So anytime you see me recommend something, I've vetted them, I've worked with them, I know who they are, and I trust them. So before we break down the differences here, let's go over the quick similarities. I believe Todd's is a Badlands as well. So just based on the colors I'm seeing inside, I believe that's what he's got. So we've got two four-door Broncos, hardtop, Badlands, both with like a 4-inch-ish lift. We both have fiberglass fenders. We both have custom paintwork, and we both have a bit of lighting done. That's the similarities. To the untrained eye, probably very similar Broncos. Now let's dive into the differences. Let's give you guys a refresher on my Bronco, just in case you're new to the channel. So I've got a 2021 Badlands with a Baja Kits long travel kit. And I built this one for SEMA, so we did a lot of details that most people probably aren't gonna do, like having the shocks completely pulled apart and custom anodized, everything purple. And also you're gonna see some dirt on this one. You're also gonna see it on Todd's, because Todd made quite the drive over here. I gave mine a real quick rinse down because she's gonna get muddy going to my house tonight. I live on a dirt road. It's been raining the last couple of days. The Bronco was brown about 30 minutes ago. So back to what we're talking about here. I've got the 6-inch Fiberworks fenders. We've got rigid lighting all the way around, Road Armor front and rear bumpers. And the rear bumper has Road Armor's tire carrier system built into it. And again, she is dirty. But on the rear, we've got the Baja Kits little like trailing arm setup there. Not really trailing arms, I forget exactly what those are called, but and of course the matching Kings in the back. We're not really gonna go over interior because Todd's is stock. We only really did mine for SEMA. However, if you guys are new to the channel, check it out. We've got the beautiful diamond shit seats with the Workport logos in the headrest. Now let's dive into Todd's, and we're kind of gonna basically pull off of mine to Todd's. So let's just start with the big components, right? So my suspension sits about 4 inches higher than stock. I don't know exactly the height on this kit, but I believe this is a 4-inch kit that Todd's running here, and Todd is running the 4-wheel parts lift kit. So you can see we got the 4-wheel parts upper control arms there. I can't tell exactly what shocks those are. It looks like they're 4-wheel parts branded shocks. Not 100% sure. And this kit is actually a placeholder because Todd is gonna be running the same Baja kit setup that I am. He's just saving up some money until he gets that. So he wanted to be able to clear 37s on this thing, and this kit allowed him to do so. And being that he is just the lift kit, not the long travel kit, his front end is on paper should be about 6 inches narrower than mine, but it's almost hard to tell. So I mean, without having them exactly next to each other, maybe we'll move them in a second here. Also, a huge thank you to Todd for letting me film his vehicle for today. But we'll get these put together like nose to nose this way, and we'll see how much wider it looks. But at this angle, kind of hard to tell, but when you get front on here, you can see that the that Bronco is significantly wider. Now for wheels, we are both running 37s. Todd's running the Mickey Thompson Baja Bosses, while I'm running my favorite tire, the Toyo MT. But you'll notice we have a very different wheel size. I'm running 17-inch bead locks from Dirty Life. Those are actually true bead locks. And then Todd is running fuel wheels. He's running some 20s with the simulated bead locks. If you've been around the channel for a long time, you know how I feel about fuel wheels. Decent product, horrible customer service. But seeing the 20 on the 37, I actually kind of like this look. It's a decent amount of wheel, but I don't think it's too much. Now again, Todd drove his Bronco all the way out from Arizona, so she's got a little bit of bugs on there. I didn't want to spray off somebody else's vehicle without their permission, so pretend you don't see the bugs on the front of his grill here, because we're going to talk about grills. So Todd actually had all of his paint work done by the homie Jay, Paint by Jay on Instagram. You guys saw when I took my Bronco up to Sacramento and I had Jay paint my grill, and he has since done a lot of other little accents around the vehicle. But you'll notice our grills are very similar. Jay did my grill, and then Jay also did Todd's grills, as well as a bunch of other stuff on here. So in that respect, we are both done the same there. Todd went white on the background of the grill to match the body, and then he's got this pretty sick, it's almost like an anodized red look on the R there. I like changing the R's. I think it just makes them stand out, it looks cooler. They're not Raptors, they're not an R version of anything, but I don't know, I think it looks cool. Really do like that red though. I think that red is pretty killer. So we're rocking the same grills. Todd has the same bumpers that I used to have on the Bronco before we swapped out here to the Road Armors. These were never in the plan on my Bronco. It's just, we were in the Road Armor booth for SEMA, so that's what we ended up with. The plan is to go with a more pre-runner style, like tube bumper or something similar, because it just kind of fits the look of the build, being more of a pre-runner style build. The one thing I will say that I miss is, you can see on Todd's bumper here, we've got the radar or the sensor on the front. This is what paces the car in front of you for your emergency stopping, for your adaptive cruise control that'll pace the car while you're in traffic. I missed having that. Just came back from a road trip to Northern California, and it's way more fun going on long trips when you have the adaptive cruise control versus, well, I've kind of got a bumper and a winch in the way of mine, so mine's currently not active until we figure out what we're doing with the front bumper. Now let's talk one of the biggest and probably most expensive changes on both of these Broncos, and that is the fiberglass fenders. We have two different companies. We've got Fiberworks and then we have ADV. My original plan with my Bronco was to go with ADV, which is the fenders you see here. And I talked to them for a while. We went back and forth. I think they originally rolled out like their smaller kit, then they came out with the 6-inch kit. And I was like, sweet, let's go. I want the 6-inch kit. Told them what I was gonna be doing with the Bronco, and they're like, no, 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 you wanna wait till the 8-inch kit comes out. Well, unfortunately, it wasn't gonna come out in time for SEMA. So it ended up working out. I linked up with Fiberworks, and honestly, I think Fiberworks looks more off-roady, whereas ADV looks a little more polished, if that makes sense. Which they both have their pros and cons, right? Like, to me, this looks more aggressive, but then you'll see there's some finish work on these that I think is kind of nicer. And this is actually my first time really getting to look at some ADV fenders in person up close. And Jay, Paint by Jay, did a couple little tricks on this thing that we're gonna have to do on my Bronco at some point. So let's give you guys a little overview here. You can see with the Fiberworks, again, being more in the off-road world and off-road industry, they just go for the big flares. You're basically going for clearance, right? Have you ever looked at a trophy truck or a pre-runner or anything like that? It's just get the bulge out there and get us some room and some clearance. So on the front here, you got this nice big swoop versus the ADV, where they look more factory, where it kind of comes down and then you get the flare action going on there. And I've actually just seen this for the first time. You can see it kind of has a little bubble out, which I think actually looks really cool. And then you'll see in the way that the ADV comes down and integrates, it comes over this lower piece right here, whereas the Fiberworks dies into the piece. I don't really know any other way that they would end this without just kind of chopping it right there. But personally, I like this better. I feel like it's much easier to take this piece off. You guys actually saw I did this the other day when I was swapping out the Morimoto headlights on here. Versus, I don't know what you would have to do to get this off with this piece in place. But it's probably gonna be a pain in the absolute butt to do though. One of the things Todd did that I did not is Todd is actually also running an ADV fiberglass hood. So I'm still running the stock Bronco hood, and it's cool to see this in person. I kind of wonder how my Bronco would look with this hood setup. Not sure if I'm so sold on needing it. I do like how it sits up a little bit taller than the kind of the factory hump that is over there. I definitely think it looks great on his Bronco, but they are not cheap. So I don't know if I'm gonna end up with one on mine or not. And speaking of not cheap, Todd, again, I've only talked to him through Instagram, have not met him in person yet. Seems like the guy that wants to get things done right. So he actually had this Bronco, I believe, shipped to ADV to actually have them install their own panels, because who knows how to install them better than the actual company that makes them. All these panels were installed at ADV. Then the Bronco was shipped up to Sacramento to have Jay paint all of the fiberglass work, as well as other little accents that you'll see. If I'm just comparing fiberglass to fiberglass. Now, unfortunately, I didn't have this or time for Jay to paint mine, so I had a local shop do it, and they actually did a really good job, because they had to fit up the fenders, but thankfully they had just done this exact setup right before I came in, so they had a pretty good idea of what it would take. But I think there's like 90 hours into getting the fiberglass fit up just right. Here's one of the big differences though that you will see. Coming up underneath, you'll see the fender liners here. Hopefully it shows up good. We're on a GoPro here, but the fender liners on the ADV are definitely thicker and feel more like factory fender liner, right? Then if we come over to the Fiberworks, now you're back into the more off-road racy, doesn't quite feel as thick. And then, well, I hate to say it guys, but I kind of broke mine. So my tire caught it at one point, and I actually had the body shop come in and like it kind of cracked a little bit down here, and I had the body shop come in and trim it. And we thought we trimmed it way high up enough to get clearance, but apparently not, and we ended up catching again, and well, we kind of tore the fiberglass there. So that's a repair I'm gonna have to make at some point. Now let's look at the rears. Very similar style rears to where you've got this chunk right here that double-sided tapes onto the rear door. I'm assuming that's how the ADV is. That is how the Fiberworks is. But then again, the difference is on the ADV, you've got just a more subtle bump out, whereas the Fiberworks kind of starts up here and bumps its way out. Now the benefit I could see to the ADV is your fuel door. So I'll show you in a second on my Bronco, but when you go to put in a fill nozzle on mine, this bump out's a lot further, and your fill nozzle barely misses that edge right there by like, we're talking like a hair. You know what hair if you work in construction. Barely misses, to where I worry that if you're not careful, it's gonna start to rub the paint on that edge. This setup looks like you have a lot more clearance. Also, shout out to Todd for the work for it decal. Love it. Let's show you the difference on mine over here. You can see how we've got a much bigger bump out here, which again, I think looks more aggressive. However, when you put your fill nozzle in, you've got this big ledge right here you have to contend with. And most fill nozzles, unless they have a really long spout, ends up sitting, I mean, you can actually almost see a little bit of scratches right there, I think, maybe. I don't know, maybe that's just dirt. But it's definitely a time or two touched right on that edge. Well, I don't know how they would really do this different. I wish they had kind of taken that in just a little bit to buy you a little more clearance when filling up. Now, here's my biggest issue I have with these Fender setups. And Fiberworks jumped on board as a sponsor for this vehicle, so I'm very grateful for that. And I really do appreciate it. And we're gonna come up with a solution for this. But you will notice with the way the Fiberworks fenders come down, you see all of the old holes where the factory little fender flares or plastic pieces bolted up. I'm not sure why we couldn't just mold these down a little bit, or even, I mean, I know you want as much clearance on the outside as you can get, but I feel like we could have just like tapered that in a little bit to hide that edge, especially over here, because really you're not going to gain or lose any clearance. This wheel's not turning by making this edge come all the way out to the end. Now on the ADV, you'll see that it looks a lot more finished in here. And this is kind of what I was talking about, being like more off-roady, aggressive, racy, and then more like prim and proper. Maybe that's, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for, but you'll see how this just looks more finished inside the fender wells. They do have the same issue where you have exposed bolts right here. So Jay went ahead and took a piece of, I don't know what this is. Is it metal or is it plastic? It feels like metal. It almost looks like he sprayed like kind of like a bed liner on it. And he made this little piece to hide a lot of the old factory holes. So that's pretty cool. It's definitely something that I'm gonna have to look into doing on my Bronco. Also, shout out to Todd's kids. Look at this. We got a grater over here grading some pretzel sticks. It's tough work out there, guys. Tough work. You ever graded pretzel sticks with an open cab grater? But here you can see what is exposed when you don't have a plate to hide this. So Jay did a good job of getting that hidden. Jay's all about those little details, which I appreciate, because little stuff like that drives me insane. Now, if you look on this back piece right here, you can see how on ADV, this is an extra piece that I'm assuming double-sided tape's on. I'm not really sure how that attaches. It looks like there's some double-sided tape in there to this factory piece from Ford. The Fiberworks setup is not like that. This entire thing is all one molded piece. Now, I'm assuming Todd's Bronco did not come from the factory with painted handles, and I know for sure the mirrors do not come painted like this. So I believe Jay had all of these pulled off and painted, which I really do like. I love the look of color matched door handles. However, I'm so worried about rocks flying off, smacking the door handles, and then chipping the crap out of the paint on them. Jay is working on a solution for this though. There's a really cool new product that's gonna, I mean, it's kind of already on the market, but we'll be doing some videos on it at some point in the future. It's gonna change the world. Let's just put it that way. So while I would really like to color match my door handles like I've done on every single one of my vehicles, black plasticky door handles look better than all rock chipped up panels. Now, that being said, I feel like on the gray, you would see it a lot less than you would see it on white handles. So we might be able to get away with it on this. And speaking of the gray, obviously we've got two different colors here, right? We've got the carbonized gray, and then we've got the white. I don't know exactly what Ford calls it, but it's the pure white. This was actually the color that I wanted to get the Bronco in. My plan was to order a white Bronco because, I mean, just look at this thing. This thing looks beautiful. You can't go wrong with white and black. Like, it's just so nice. The only thing I worried about, and the thing that stopped me, was the fact that you could not order the paint matched roof at the time. They were back ordered. I mean, we all know the hardtop roofs had issues on issues on issues, and I have a 2nd generation hardtop roof. This is supposed to be the fixed one, and it still rattles. So the reason I went carbonized gray is because we all know black plastic eventually turns gray out in the sun. So if I'm gonna have plastic that's kind of getting grayed out, what better way to kind of have it color match than by getting a gray body? So that's the whole reason I decided to go carbonized gray, was that I knew once all these plastics, and I mean half this vehicle is plastic, grayed out, it would match the body. Maybe it's a dumb reason, I don't know, but it made sense in my brain. I've actually had a few people confuse this for being color matched. So I think that means I did the right thing. Now, if you want to put big tires onto your Bronco, obviously most people are going to want to have matching spare, right? Because that kind of only makes sense. Well, you can't put a 37 on the factory tire mount or spare tire mount that comes with the Broncos. Physically, you can. It will go on there. However, the weight of a 37 will bend and tweak your back door. It's already been proven. A lot of people have done it, and a lot of people have ruined their back doors, which are not cheap to replace. So you either have to go with a tire gate setup, like mine here from Road Armor, which is actually pretty cool. All of the weight is carried on the rear bumper here, and then when you open the door, it all swings together, right? So you don't have to, like the olden days, open this up first, then come in and open your door. It all opens together, which is really, really nice. Your other option is you basically upgraded the factory spare tire carrier in that location. Todd's got the Rough Country spare tire mount, which you can see it uses the bolts off the hinge to kind of transfer that weight across the whole back door, and I'm assuming put a lot of the weight on the actual hinges there itself, instead of all of the weight of the 37 just tweaking on this door every time you hit a bump. Looks really clean, again, keeping with the black and white theme. I had actually contemplated just removing the spare tire completely. That was my original plan with this thing, because I'll go show you on that spare tire carrier. If you get a flat, you're kind of in trouble. But Rough Country and a few other companies at this point make a spare tire delete kit, which basically is a similar plate to this, but it just deletes all the hardware and everything that would hold a spare tire and just kind of gives you a flat panel. I know the Jeeps and all that, those guys have had a system like that out for years. But over here on this setup, if you have a flat and you need to access your spare, you have to get in here with a bunch of little tools to unbolt this end piece right here. You got to pull this out, you got to unhook your camera, you got to unhook your light, pull this whole piece off, then you got to come in and loosen up all your nuts to pull your tire off. Not impossible, but you got to carry now, instead of just a lug nut tool, you got to have a bunch of little box wrenches, and it is not fun to get in here. Trust me, I've done it a few times to get all of these off. And God forbid if you have a license plate on here, now you got to pull the license plate off first. I mean, I guess you could come in from behind, but it would be next to impossible. So you gotta pull your license plate off first, then get in there and unbolt all your stuff. So at that point, you know, I mean, I guess if you're off on a trail, you got time, but if I'm on the side of the road, call it a tow truck, and they'll take me to a tire shop and we'll just get the other one fixed or replaced. So if you're looking for your options, again, that's a really nice option, especially if you're running 40s or so. I would opt for that option because most of the weight's transferred down to the bumpers. But if you're staying in the 37 range, I haven't heard anything bad about this setup. This is much easier to actually access your spare tire. One of the other differences we're rocking here is just our choice in lighting. So Todd is running the Vision X lights, which are actually really, really nice lights. And then on my A-pillars, we've got the rigid lighting, which at some point I might switch these out to something a little more modern looking. And then speaking of lighting, the whole reason Todd brought his Bronco all the way out here from Arizona was to have Sergio install a set of Work For It rock lights. If you guys have not seen over on our website, workforitapparel.com, we are offering rock lights now, and these things are killer and super, super bright. And well, if you guys can see, where is it at? There it is. Oh, it's a little bit dark in there. Todd purchased a couple sets for me, brought the Bronco out here to have the man himself, Sergio, install them, and I'm excited to see these things lit up at night. I've gone ahead and put them side by side so we can get a width comparison here, and I just realized, I believe I misspoke earlier saying my tires were 13.5. Mine are actually 12.5s, whereas Todd is running a 13.5. So you can see his tire is a little bit wider, but if we take a stand back, you can definitely now see the difference in the width, or the track width there, of my front end versus his. Now our rears are going to be the same because with the Baja kit setup, obviously your rear end does not change without, you know, having a whole new axle to widen the whole rear end. Here's a better look and a better way to compare our fiberglass fenders. You'll notice from back here, it's kind of hard to tell who's taller, right? When I'm sitting in it, I feel like Todd's Bronco actually sits a little bit higher. But if you look at our fender lines, you'll see that the Fiberworks scoops out a lot more right here than the ADV does. And again, I feel like this is the more polished, this is the more off-roady aggressive, so they just hogged out a bunch of clearance, whereas these, they kind of wanted to retain some of the factory body lines. So my fenders sit a little bit higher, but I think if we're looking overall at like the top roof line to roof line, Todd's actually sits higher with the four-wheel parts lift kit. I do like how aggressive that little scoop is on the hood though. I think it makes everything look a little bit taller, and maybe that is what my Bronco's needing now that I see them side by side like this. I went ahead and borrowed Zach's snap-on tape measure here. You know, if it's got snap-on on it, it's gonna be extra official. It's gonna be hard to get the perspective here, but we're gonna go about 77.5. Looks like we're about 78.5, maybe. Let's measure mirror to mirror. It's probably a better, more accurate measurement. We got 54 3/4, 55 shy, so 54 and 15/16. There's no way that's only a 1/4 inch difference. It's actually less depending on how we put the tape measure there. Huh, let's see if we plumb up a little better here. They're almost exact. That's crazy. I wonder if it's just my eyes playing tricks on me. But now I guess my mirror, I don't know. I'm losing it, guys, because now my mirror looks a little higher, but then from that side looking this way, this looks higher. So I guess they're even more similar than I thought. One thing I forgot to mention though is rock sliders, right? So he's got the factory rock sliders, which you'll see are these right here. And then I've got the aftermarket ones from Road Armor. Honestly, I liked both. I like that setup because they're kind of more stealthy and tucked in. And then I like this setup because I feel like sticking out a little further catches a few more rocks and keeps them from shooting up and scratching the side of the doors. Now we wait for the sun to go down and let's see what the new work for it rock lights look like on Todd's Bronco. While we're waiting for it to get dark, let me show you guys the work for it rock lights. We've got them all right here. We've got red, we've got blue, don't mind the purple sticker, that means blue. We've got white, we also have green, and we have amber. They're just not packaged yet, but these things are freaking awesome. Also, let's just take a minute. You guys know I'm a stickler for details. Check out the packaging. The packaging just looks so, so good. So these are 1260 lumens. We sell them in sets of 8, and I'm super excited to see them on here. We've actually got a set of these on Dedix K20. We've been testing them for well over a year at this point, and they've been on that truck just to make sure that these things are as quality as we want them to be. I don't know what we're gonna have in stock by the time this video goes live. We've been selling the whites like crazy. We should have all of the colors in stock. It's just the whites that just fly off the shelves. And here we go, guys. Check these things out. These things are super, super bright. Oh, they look so good on the Bronco. I mean, you just cannot beat a clean white and black vehicle, and then of course the white lights just look absolutely awesome. So Todd went with 2 in each wheel well, as well as 2 under the front, 2 under the rear, and 2 on each side. So 2 sets, and I think it is just the perfect amount for this Bronco. Looks super, super good. I'm jealous. Got to get some on my Bronco next. I just can't keep them in stock. We always take care of the customers first. So once I get enough white ones in stock to have inventory, as well as get a few extra to put on my own, the Bronco will be getting some. But man, that looks super good. Nice and bright. Whew, look at that. Love it. Absolutely love it. Don't mind the helicopter flying over right now. Of course, anytime we're filming, there's always something. Alrighty, guys. Well, we are going to wrap up this video. Huge thank you to Todd for letting me do a whole walk around and filming his Bronco, as well as a huge thank you for being a customer of Workfort and buying some Workfort rock lights and taking it to Sergio and giving him some business on the install as well. I think this video is gonna be really cool for you guys if you have a Bronco and you wanna see some of the differences, because you know, there's only so many parts manufacturers out there. And it's not every day that you get to compare very similar products so closely to each other. So glad to have the opportunity and have Todd's Bronco here and make this video for you guys. So with that, we're gonna wrap up. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not subscribed already, please click the subscribe button now that you do not miss out on any future content. Don't forget to give this video a like and get a thumbs up. Don't forget to check out workfortapparel.com, because if there's anything you want in this life, you gotta be willing to work for it. You guys are the best. I'm out.
Damn.